Good morning. How is everyone doing today? It is officially the second day of 2025, and just as we left 2024 with a bang, we're coming into 2025 with a bang as well in terms of severe weather and winter weather as well. We're going to be going over a couple different key factors and two different systems that's really going to be coming in the short to medium term here, which our first one is going to take place more so over the central plains of the United States, stretching from Kansas all the way to the East Coast. That could potentially dump 8 to 12 feet of snow across multiple states. There is still a little bit of uncertainty, so take that with a grain of salt. And then our next storm system, which is a little bit further out, probably around the January 8th to the January 10th timeframe, we could see some southern snow and ice as far south as Texas, Louisiana, potentially going into Mississippi and Alabama. Like I said, we are still over 7 days away, technically at this point, right at the 7-day mark. So the models are just now starting to come in agreement between the GFS and the Euro. But in this video, we're going to dive into it all, break down all the details, and show you what's to come in the short term, the medium term, and the long term. So let's get right into it. All right, now, before we dive into some of the models, one thing I just kind of wanted to go over that I've showed, I think, in one of my previous videos was the risk for heavy snowfall. And mind you, what I'm about to show you is an experiment model. This is still experiment. It's not 100% accurate, so obviously take this with a grain of salt. And these dates have also moved back as well. That's why there's still a little bit of uncertainty. We've got portions of pretty much northern Texas all through the Dixie Alley area to the East Coast to the Carolinas that are outliced with a slight risk of heavy snowfall between January the 9th to January the 10th. Like I said, this keeps getting pushed back. It was initially, I think, January the 6th, then went from January the 8th, now January the 9th through the 10th. So, like I said, take it with a grain of salt. I think the opportunity for this to actually shift even more south down there here towards the coast, or we might even get a separate area outlined down here and potentially still some more snow in here, or just pretty much the whole part of eastern Texas. But regardless, don't focus on the areas. Don't focus on the timing just yet because there's a lot of uncertainty. I just kind of wanted to show y'all this because it is a new model. It is an experimental model. It's just interesting to kind of see the shift. So we'll have to see how it plays out and see if it really holds true to its forecast. Alrighty, now jumping into some of the model guidance, we're going to take a look at the GFS model first, and then we're going to jump over to the Euro and potentially the Icon model as well, because the Icon model is now starting to take a hint of this as well. It's just not aggressive. This is going to be the latest version of the GFS. This is going to be the 6Z model that just came out a couple hours ago, so hot off the press. And we can take this forward in time frame. Right now, we're sitting about January the 5th, and about the next 3 days, you can already see our low pressure system bombing out here over the Rocky Mountains, and already snow and sleet and mixed frozen precipitation beginning to fall in the central plains from Kansas to Nebraska to South Dakota, North Dakota. Like I said, the placement and timing on this is still a little bit uncertain, but I think we'll really start to hone in on those times as we get a little bit closer. Now, really getting into probably your Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, this is when things are really going to start becoming more robust in a sense. And it's going to happen very quickly. You're going to go from a very light potential rain, sleet, or snow, depending on where you're located, because the models for this system has trended just a tad bit more north. Originally, this snow line was a little bit further south, more so towards the border of Kansas, but now it's ever so slightly ticked north, and that's very important because a couple miles can make the difference between heavy snowfall or heavy rain or even ice, and we're going to go over that as well because the potential for a serious ice storm is definitely on the table, and I think that's more of the dangerous event that is going to potentially take place with this system. Is potentially anywhere between a quarter to half an inch of ice or even more, and once you start getting above a quarter inch of ice, that becomes extreme. That becomes detrimental on our infrastructure, the roadways, things like that. Travel becomes extreme, almost impossible. So it's nothing that we've never dealt with before. I don't want people to get the idea that this is going to be like a record-breaking event. Obviously, this is just like any other Arctic blast, polar vortex out there that we get any other winter, but could be a little bit more on the stronger side, the severe side. So definitely prepare for that if you're in the area of Kansas, Missouri, pushing into Tennessee, Kentucky, the Carolinas. And as we move forward, this system's really going to begin to not necessarily bomb out, but really hold its strength moving into Missouri. You can see by Monday, our low pressure system down here about January the 5th and 6th moving into the Tennessee area. I do think that we have the real possibility of seeing severe weather as well in the eastern Texas area going into Louisiana, Arkansas, and southwestern Tennessee as this low pressure, this different mass of air clashes with warm air down here pulling from the Gulf of Mexico. So you're going to get a little bit of spin in the atmosphere. We got a dip in the jet stream, and that could promote potential some tornadic activity, maybe some large hail and some damaging winds. Once we get into our day 3 and 2 time frame, we'll begin to break those down as well. And we continue to move this forward, and it's expected to make it into the Carolina areas most likely by Monday, January the 6th. Okay, take it with a grain of salt. Time is still a little bit finicky when it comes to forecasting this far out. Now, as far as the freezing line and when we're really going to start seeing like really cold Arctic freezing temperatures more so in the south and moving into northern Texas, I think this is really going to begin to affect these areas in the south around January the 6th, right after the severe weather event day, going into the night, the time frame morning of Monday morning. You're probably waking up in northern Texas to frozen temperatures. I mean, northern Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, obviously, Kansas, Missouri, and all these states up here in the Central Plains are going to be potentially negative. We're talking about negative 10 to 15 degrees below zero. But obviously, nothing that this area has never dealt with before. As we move this in time even more, you'll notice we've got a little more snow building in the Rocky Mountains and the Panhandle of Texas around January the 7th. Kind of fizzles off. We got a high pressure building up here in the Central Plains. Probably going to make for some great weather out there. And you'll notice down here in the south, this little tiny green area is starting to pop up down here. This little low pressure system. This is very important because if we can get a cutoff low down here in the Gulf of Mexico that comes over Mexico, this is going to promote our next system, which is why if we go back to that model I showed y'all just previously around the January 9th to the 10th, and they had it highlighted for heavy snow, this is why. It's going to be this system right down here. Thursday, about mid-morning to midday, January the 9th. You can see snow building in the Texas Hill Country, moving into probably Austin, San Antonio. Light snow beginning to move into the Dallas area. And between Houston and probably Dallas, we're going to have an area, the battle area, between different temperatures where it's not quite frozen, but at the same time, it kind of is, more so at nighttime too. If our highs during the day were a little bit cooler per se, below freezing, this would be a big snow event for southern Texas. But I think the real opportunity to have not a major ice storm, but some type of ice storm down here, some ice accumulation between the 9th and the 10th is very likely. And y'all can see here, moving into later part of the January 9th timeframe, Thursday, you can see our low pressure beginning to move onshore near Louisiana. We've got ice, sleet, freezing rain falling in pretty much the whole entire state of Louisiana, snow covering northern portions of Texas. We continue to move this forward in time, and it finally begins to move out. And it's impressive. I think both of these systems for the north and southern are going to have the potential to become a marathon storm in a way, if that makes sense, where they're going to begin more so in the Central Plains, the southern Central Plains, and track east all the way across the United States. How far that snow or that freezing line gets once it moves east is still in question. Is there a potential for Georgia to see some snow, or maybe far south as Florida? I think Florida more so unlikely as of right now, what we're seeing in the model data, but I don't think it's impossible. We're just going to have to wait and see how the models over time interpret and how they take this storm, because we really got to start having snowfall on the ground. We really need these systems to really begin to develop before we start looking that far out. And then after that time frame, I mean, like I said, we could have some potentially other Arctic blasts coming down, some other storms, more severe weather, but that's way out in La La Land, so we're not obviously going to talk about that. The next model that I want to show you before we wrap today's video up is the Euro, so let's go ahead and jump over right to it. Alrighty, now taking a look at the Euro model, they're pretty similar. The only difference between the GFS and the Euro model right now, which is not a massive difference, is that the Euro model is taking it a little bit stronger of a low pressure system, so a little bit more of an intense system, just maybe by like 5 or 10 millibars right now. A drop in pressure, which is going to create these isobars around here. So maybe a little bit harsher conditions, not necessarily blizzard conditions. I don't think so. This is not going to be like a bomb cyclone per se, but you can see around, this is Sunday, January the 5th. All right, about morning/midday. And you've got it down to a 998 down here. Very heavy snow falling in central Kansas. more so closer to the Kansas and Oklahoma border, you're pretty much having rain. And just north of that, you're going to be having ice. All right, ice and freezing rain. I think Kansas City is going to be right on that threshold of that freezing line where it's just enough for the snow when it begins. And as we move this forward in time frame, I think Kansas City will definitely transition to more so all snow. Going into pretty much Monday morning, y'all can see it's moving into the pretty much Tennessee, Kentucky area. And like I said, by later half of that week, the first start of the week, Monday, late that Monday, it's really going to eject off to the east, begin really moving quickly. So I think some of the highest totals are really going to be picked up from the central United States, points east towards just north of Tennessee, the Kentucky area. Like I said, I think a swath of 8 to potentially 12 inches of snow and then potentially a quarter to half an inch of ice is definitely possible. All right, and just to give you all an idea of the Euro, what it's showing as far as total snowfall once this first system comes through the Kansas, Missouri area. Like I said, widespread, potentially 8 to 10 inches of rain. Like I said, rain. I mean snow. I wish it was rain at this point. I really wish I could turn this into rain for y'all because I know, like I said, once we start getting above this much, it becomes a havoc. But anywhere between 8 to 10 inches of snow is likely. And you've almost got this sweet spot pretty much right where Kansas City is, picking up on 9 inches to a foot of snow. And this is going to go into Missouri. You've got 7-8 inches. And then, just north of the Tennessee area, 7-8 inches. And it continues moving towards the East Coast. So like I said, these numbers are going to shift a little bit. It could move a little bit further south. Could shift a little more north. So we'll pick up on that on the latest models once we get more updates coming out in the next couple of days. All right, and now jumping over to the GFS. I want to show you all this because it's definitely a big difference as far as the Euro when it comes to snowfall. And y'all can see about the same time frame, a little over 148 hours out from now. Big difference. I mean, some areas picking up on 15 inches of snow in northeastern Kansas near Kansas City, 14 inches of snow pretty much all throughout mid-central to northern Missouri, almost going into the Kentucky area and pretty much Tennessee area. So this is, like I said, what we know now is that there's going to be some type of storm system in the Central Plains stretching from the East Coast, points east from Kansas. We know that with almost 100% confidence pretty much at this point. The only uncertainty now is the timing and how much snow people are going to get. That's what we got to figure out now, and we're not really going to have a good handle on just yet until we get pretty much that 3-day time frame and that 48-hour period, and we'll continue to break the models down. So, don't believe these crazy models that you may see online that other people may be showing you of 30, 40 inches of snow, or they're going to get the worst case scenario offline and not explain any other model without any other explanation, because that's just false. That's completely false. I do like to show all the scenarios, worst case and best case scenario, so that way y'all can prepare for the worst case scenario and then have something to look forward to if it doesn't happen. With that said, let's kind of dive in, though, and look at some of the ice totals, as I think that's going to be more of the extreme event as far as travel conditions and potentially damage to our infrastructure. Alrighty, now beginning with the GFS model, this is going out about the same, about 148 hours, 150 hours out from today, January the 2nd. And y'all can see in Kansas, I mean, a quarter of an inch. You start going into Missouri, I mean, we're talking almost 1 inch in some places of ice. And I know, like, 1 inch, you're like, oh, that's not a lot. A lot of people maybe that aren't from this area are going to think less of it. And obviously, if you're born, you're raised in this area, this spells trouble. You're not going anywhere. You're going to be stuck inside. Interstates are going to be gridlocked. If this happened, this is definitely one of the worst case scenarios, I think, seeing a widespread half an inch to an inch of ice from Kansas to Missouri to north of Tennessee going into Kentucky. I mean, this is definitely extreme. I don't want to sugarcoat it, but I also don't want to over dramatize it, but it is serious. This is something that if it does happen, there is definitely going to be damage to infrastructures. We are going to see widespread power outages, and travel conditions are pretty much going to be nearly impossible. All right. Obviously, the shift between the freezing rain line and the ice is going to be a pretty thin corridor because, like I said, it's going to be the battle between the cold air and the warm air and where that corridor meets. So, if it shifts a little bit more south, I mean, we could be talking about all the difference. So, like, obviously, if you're in southern Kansas down here, and it really doesn't show anything at all, don't let your guard down, because all this storm system has to do is shift just a couple miles south, and that makes all the difference in your location and area. Like Missouri, southern Missouri, way southern Missouri, going into Arkansas, y'all don't have much right now, but don't let your guard down. Like, prepare for this now. It's better to be over prepared than under prepared and let it hit you at the last minute and you don't know what hit you. All right. I've seen it multiple times happen. So definitely please start preparing for this. We're going to continue going over the models. Like I said, moving forward, I'm not going to get into details and snow totals and all that stuff in southern Texas and going into Louisiana, because like I said, that's kind of still far out. Like I said, I think the possibility of snow, freezing, rain, and ice down there is still on the table, and it's becoming more consistent. But not just enough yet to really break down specific details, timing, because all that's going to change. So it's kind of pointless at this point. But that's going to conclude it for today's video. I hope y'all enjoyed. This is a little bit longer of a video, but I wanted to get a little bit more detailed and really kind of break down some of the discussions. My new goal for 2025 here is to grow this channel to well over 1,000 subs. We're almost at 700 subscribers, so thank all y'all for the support. It's much appreciated. Without y'all, we wouldn't be able to do this. We got great things we're going to be hopefully beginning within the next couple of months, especially with storm chasing season coming up, April or May, tornado season. So without further ado, if you like the video, like it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please comment down below. Drop a comment. Just say hi. Just a friendly reminder that we all stand together. We're all in this together, and we all need to help each other through all of these times right now. So I appreciate it, guys. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all in the next video.